I'm Kara Dennison, and I'm the Community Manager for Regeneration Who.
Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Oh, well, like I said, one of the big things I do right now is I work with Oni Hartstein and James Harknell for Regeneration Who and also intervention. Outside of my convention work, I'm a freelance anime and video game editor, and I've been doing conventions for about 15 years. So, you know, my areas of expertise branch out into cosplay, anime, sci-fi in general. So I'm kind of spread out across a lot of areas at this point.
And do you do those at separate times, or do you kind of work on them all at once?
You know, since I'm a freelancer now, I sort of set myself a bit of a schedule during the day. So I go, okay, this part of the day is for convention stuff. This part of the day is for work, for editing, so that I have at least a, you know, something like a work day and I don't get things too mixed up. Though if there is something urgent, like Oni comes in on Facebook, says, we need this up now, then boom, everything drops and I go do that.
Mm-hmm. So who is your favorite doctor and why?
Ooh, well, my very first doctor was Paul McGann, the 8th Doctor. When I was in college, the TV movie was the first thing I saw because it was the newest thing there was. And I got into Doctor Who in general after that, and then Big Finish, and so I heard a lot more of him through there. So he had always been my one favorite. And then 12th Doctor started. And he just won me over so quickly because I'm not sure. There's something about them both where they're both, I mean, they both have very different personalities on the outside, but they both really enjoy being the alien one and the smartest person in the room, and they don't venture as much towards being humanish as 10 and 11, say, did. So they're pretty much my equal best at this point.
Yeah, those are two great doctors. Actually, I would probably pick those two as well.
Ah, cool.
So before I get to the more serious questions, I was looking on YouTube the other day, specifically your YouTube channel.
Oh boy.
And I saw your most recent video when you were in the UK. With the toilet. That was the best.
I was so confused. I had just gotten into Cardiff. I had come in from London by train. And I walked, I mean, it's not difficult to get from London to Cardiff. It just takes a few hops by the train. So I walked from the Cardiff Bay train station to the Future Inn Hotel. And I was real tired. And I just wanted to, you know, take a shower, head to bed, and, you know, go do things the next morning. And I walk into the bathroom and there's no toilet as far as I can see. And I was so concerned. I thought, am I going crazy? Does Wales do things this differently from the rest of England? So I actually went online to TripAdvisor and typed in, like, does Future Inns have toilets in the rooms? And apparently a bunch of other people were saying, you have to look behind the door. And
that's hilarious.
So I feel a little better, especially since the next morning I went down to breakfast and the table next to me, there were 4 guys and one of them said, everything in this hotel is a puzzle. So I felt a little okay that I wasn't the only person who couldn't find half the bathroom.
Yeah, it was like hidden behind the door.
Yeah.
I don't know why they would design it like that.
It's strange, and I'm glad I eventually figured it out, but I just sort of stood there feeling very silly for quite a while.
Yeah, that was funny. You moderated the Tom Baker Skype, right?
Yes, I did.
Was that stressful at all? Because I also knew you found out last minute as well.
I didn't find out literally last minute, but I found out, you know, I wasn't sort of warned, you know, hey, we're going to go get Tom Baker, and by the way, we're considering having you do this. It was, I knew we were getting the Skype, and then one day on Facebook, Oni just says, hey, guess who's moderating the Tom Baker Skype? And I just kind of go, what? Because even people who don't know Doctor Who know who he is.
Yeah.
You know, people who say, well, I don't watch Doctor Who, but it's the guy in the scarf. I know that. And I'm going.
Yeah, he's kind of the face of his whole kind of show.
He very much is, yeah.
Yeah, that Skype was the best.
Oh, thank you so much. I was very nervous going into it, especially I was talking in the Hangout the other night about when I was walking to main programming with my little thing of questions, and there was this line all the way through the hotel, and I'm walking by it, and there's people sort of parting to let me through. And I just kind of lean over, I'm like, so what's the line for, guys? I said, oh, this is for the Skype. And I'm going, all right, okay.
Yeah, I was getting into line. It was like nuts. There was a huge line all the way up the stairs and everything.
I mean, and it was, you know, from an organizational standpoint, as someone who worked on this since sort of, you know, the ground floor, it was wonderful to see. And I was so glad that people were excited about it. As the person who was going to be getting up there, you know, sort of, well, no pressure. But then, you know, you got to remember, as much as I'm the moderator and as much as I was sort of leading the conversation, I had to remind myself, this is my job. They're here to see him. You know, as long as I keep the questions going and make sure he's got the limelight and the center stage, then I'm doing my job, and that's what matters. And he was so fun. He was very, very sweet and very warm and very funny. And I'm so glad I get to say that I talked to him and that I did this.
Yeah, it was wonderful. So what is it like, you know, interacting with all the fans for Regen and, you know, dealing with all this kind of stuff?
Oh, it's so fun. I mean, you know, I've been doing conventions since about 2000, so I've been interacting on different levels. And that's generally, you know, sort of milling about amongst people, doing panels and things. But more and more, especially since we've had our first event, we go to conventions and we have our table set up, and we can actually go on our Facebook and say, here's what our table looks like, here's where we are, come see us. And, you know, people come to our table to tell us about, like, sort of what happened. There are things that we may not have seen because we were working the whole time. But, you know, there's this one family in particular that went, and they have a now 3-year-old son. He was the Tuvian when they went, and he is now the Galathrian. And and he knows every doctor, and he dresses in the little costumes. And to see him sort of in front of our table with his little costume, talking to Daleks and doing all this stuff. But as time goes on, I mean, yeah, you interact with so many fans that sometimes it can be hard to keep track. But then there are some you just sort of get to know. This sort of, you know, you see them around the con, and then you see them at other cons, and they come and tell you, oh, we did this at Regen. We're going to come to Intervention also, or we're going to come to Regen again, and we can't wait to see this. And so you sort of start to build up this sort of expanded family as you go. And I've never had anything like that in conventions before, and it's so nice. It's so cool.
Yeah, and Regeneration Who is really much nicer than other conventions.
We very much we like to make it sort of, you know, sort of all inclusive. I mean, that's part of where the name comes from. It's for all different generations, so it's everyone from you watch from day one to, you know, your kid watches with you, whatever. And so it's nice to sort of go through the halls and see all sorts of people. Like at one point I was running off to a panel I was moderating, and I saw 3 little girls playing Doctors and Daleks in the hall, just playing tag. And it was a lot of work, and it was a lot of sort of behind the scenes, keeping things on schedule and keeping things running. But then you could see just what a community it was and how well it all flowed.
Yeah, everyone, the Whovian community is much nicer than other kinds of people.
It's really fun. And, you know, I can wear one of my Doctor Who shirts somewhere, and someone will just sort of stop. I was wearing a dress I have with TARDISes all over it, the Van Gogh thing. You know,
yeah.
From Vincent, I have a dress. That's the one I wore to the Skype, actually. I really like it. But I was at a rest stop on a long trip, and I was walking to the snack machine, and this random guy in a Game of Thrones shirts walked by, and he says, I like your dress. And I was like, thanks, I like your shirt. And it's just this little, like, secret handshake sort of thing out in the world.
What is it? What kind of stuff do you do in anime and that kind of?
Well, with anime, what I do is I'm the editor, and this is for subtitled anime. So what happens is a translation comes down the line, it gets timed, and it gets to me, and I have a translated version of the script. And sort of my job is to make the dialogue sort of flow. I spell check, yeah, but also just to sort of make it accessible to an American audience. If you dropped a translation straight from Japanese onto someone, it might not entirely work. You know, think of the example I like to use is the Phoenix Wright games. If you're familiar with, yeah, if you're familiar with those, if you just took those straight from Japanese, they wouldn't make as much sense because the names are puns. You know, some of the cultural references don't cross over, so it becomes sort of anywhere from proofreading to just making it accessible, making it nice. And I work with companies that put stuff on DVD, but also sites like Crunchyroll that put things online sort of as they air.
And you do some acting as well, right?
I do. I was in a group for a bit of time that did sketch comedy. I say a bit of time, it was actually several years, but I mean, I also do voice acting for different podcasts and audio dramas, and I try to keep a hand in performance as much as possible because that's sort of, when I was very young, I was in an acting troupe, and I sort of started there, and that's when I started getting in front of people and getting used to being on stage, was in an acting context less than, you know, a moderating, interviewing context. So I still have a lot of love for that. I like so many things, and I never like to leave anything behind, so I just try to do everything at once. Yeah, and I'm in convention mode right now. I got a con I'm going to tomorrow. Not for Regen. I'm actually running the karaoke competition for an anime con. I've been doing that this will be my 10th year doing that for this con, which is kind of terrifying. It's scary to believe I've been doing any one thing for 10 years.
And you also do a lot of anime cosplay as well, with like bright colored wigs and stuff like that.
Yeah, I do. That's funnily enough, my first cosplay was my first convention was MarsCon in 2000. And I had just seen the Doctor Who movie, and I sort of thrifted an 8th Doctor costume. So my first cosplay was out of Doctor Who, but as I moved into anime conventions, I started sort of looking more into that. And my grandmother, I grew up with my grandparents. My grandparents raised me, and she had been a seamstress, and she taught me to sew when I was very young. And so I got to sort of use that and start making these costumes. And I don't have as much time as I used to. I have 4 unfinished costumes, like right back there. One's actually on the windowsill right now. But once I get a breather, I'm going to start putting together more of those and get back into just having more new stuff.
Yeah, cosplay is like a very complicated thing, and it's
complicated and expensive.
Yeah.
I love seeing all the cosplayers, especially the the younger cosplayers, and then the whole families doing it. I mean, and there was a little boy who was a different Doctor every day. I think that might have been the Tuvian actually, but he was a little 12 one day, and you know, there was so much creativity out there. And since I've been doing cosplay for so long, I love, you know, I'm that person with the camera who will just, you know, run after you and go, excuse me. You know, have to get a picture and then ask how it was made, because maybe there's something I don't know how to do on there. But
yeah, and everyone does that. Like I thought I was the one taking everyone's picture, and there was
I didn't get to take nearly as many pictures as I would have liked because I was so busy, but fortunately a lot of people did, and people come by our tables at other cons with their costumes, so we still get to snap photos. And there's so many talented people. Just the things I see are amazing.
Yeah, and the artists as well, in the artist alley.
Oh yeah, the artist alley. I love just walking through there, you know, and just sort of having a look. And I'm really excited because we're gonna have more artist alley tables this year. So we're gonna have, I'm sure a lot of people will want to come back, which I'm excited about, but I'm also looking forward to seeing sort of who's new and just sort of the spread of the work, because again, people are so creative, you know, in so many different media. There was someone with like little stuffed animal, like Doctor Who cats, you know, on a table, and just, you know, I'd make my rounds just to check and see, is everything fine here? Is there anything that needs to get back to, you know, the artist alley head that you need? But I would find myself just sort of lingering and just looking at all the art because all the people participating.
Yeah, I couldn't help myself. I got, at the convention, I got a Pixel Who bookmark.
Oh, I love Pixel Who. Oh, they're lovely people. They are such fun people.
Yeah. Their art is awesome.
It really is, and they're in Doctor Who Legacy now. They're like in the little iPhone game, and I was talking to them a couple of weeks ago, and they said it's so fun because all the storylines they do have to be approved in Cardiff. So they said somewhere in an alternate universe, Pixel Who is canon, and
yeah, you reminded me. You have a DeviantArt page.
I do. I have a DeviantArt page. It's at rubycosmos.deviantart.com. And I don't use it as much as I should because I don't know. We all forget we have DeviantArt pages, but yeah, I still put up art sometimes. But you know, at this point, I've sort of drifted more into the writing side of things, partly because of all the blogging I do for Regen. But
yeah. All right, so I think that's it.
All right, cool.
So all right, so thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me. Bye. Thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, please comment below or subscribe.
Thanks for watching, guys. Also, a big thanks to Kara for letting me interview her. Here's my last video if you want to go see that. I interviewed Stephen McCullough, also known as the King of Toy Reviews. Check out that video, which was really awesome. And stay tuned for more.
And muttering and intelligible nonsense that I do in it, but I uploaded it and I said, "Hey guys, there's the video of the new screwdriver for you," and they said that's really good. Thanks very much. And then some people said, "Are you gonna make more videos?" And I was like, "Right, okay." So the rest, as they say, is history. I just kept making more videos, and for some reason, people decided they wanted to watch them.
Yeah. And when did you get your white background for your videos?
That was the start of Series 4, so 2011, 2012, I think it was. Because before that, I had just the bits of cardboard, and then it looked crap, so I blew them up in one of the subscribers' videos. And then I got more cardboard, and then more duct tape, and it didn't look nice. So I eventually got these two pieces of wood, which are still the same pieces that I use today for my stage. And I painted them white, and it didn't really look too good, and it's just been a constant progression and trying to make it look as good as I can. So getting better cameras, getting lighting equipment, and just other bits and pieces to make it look better and light it better. And the whole idea about the white background is that you always want to have your focus on the thing that you're reviewing. So never review it in front of, like, for example, this background, never review something with other things that can distract people from the actual product. Always keep it white and clear. So that's kind of where that came from.